The first thing Mama Ronka heard was the smell. Yes, the smell. She had barely removed her slippers at the entrance of her son's house that morning when the scent rushed up her nostrils. Thick, oily, peppery, crawling with aroma. Her eyes narrowed immediately. Her chest tightened. She knew that smell. She raised her voice from the parlor without stepping in. "Bisola! Bisola! What are you cooking?" No response. The housegirl ran past her with a tray of empty plates. "You! Come back here! Is it ogbono soup I'm smelling or F.O. Riro?" The girl looked confused. Mummy, I don't know. I just helped Madam buy Snail from the market and she—" "Snail?" Mama Ronka's eyes widened. Her slippers flew off. Her wrapper shifted on her shoulder as she stormed past the dining room, rounded the corner like a soldier entering a battlefield, and kicked open the kitchen door with her bare foot. "Jesus! Blood of God! Bisola!" Bisola, 8 months pregnant and heavily sweating, was seated on a stool like a queen in waiting. On her lap, a full steaming bowl of shell-less peppered snail, her left hand oily and red, her right hand halfway to her mouth, holding a long, curled piece of meat dripping in sauce. Her mouth was open, her lips ready, and her eyes wide with guilt. "So this is how you'll do it, Ain? You will kill somebody's son's children before they are even born?" Bisola froze. Mummy, it's not—" "Shut your mouth and drop it now!" She snatched the stainless steel bowl from her lap so fast that oil splashed onto the floor. Bisola stood up, trembling. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were coming, and even if I was in Ibadan, even if I was in London, should you be eating this evil? Didn't I tell you last month? Didn't I tell you last week? Didn't I warn you just 3 days ago? But Mummy, you want to give birth to what will be dragging mouth. You want to give birth to what will be sitting at 5 years old and not saying Mummy? You want to bring disgrace on yourself and my son? Because of what? Because of craving? It's just Snail." "It is not just Snail." Mama Ronka's voice thundered so loudly the housegirl ran out of the kitchen. Bisola's breath caught in her throat. The pepper in the air suddenly felt like it was burning her nostrils. Her lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes. That's how you modern girls will be saying it's just, until something that is not just begins to happen. She pointed one shaky finger at Bisola's swollen stomach. "I don't know which child inside you is crying for this nonsense, but let me tell you now. If anything comes out crawling, if anything comes out quiet and blank, I will stand here and remind you." Bisola collapsed onto the chair. Her shoulders heaved, her hands covered her mouth. "I just wanted to taste it." "Taste it? You've eaten more than 3 goats' worth already. Look at the bowl. You wanted to finish the entire clan of snails in Lagos. What kind of taste is that?" Then silence. Heavy silence. The bowl of snail sat on the kitchen counter, untouched, steaming, glistening in guilt. Mama Ronka turned. Her face was hot. Her voice was shaking. "You don't know what you've done." And she walked away. Welcome to African Tales by Imadai. Please like this video, watch till the end, and discover what became of the unborn life touched by that forbidden bowl. Before the snail, before the shouting, before the steaming bowl that almost divided her home, Bisola was just a happy woman. She had married Michael 3 years ago, the kind of man any woman would pray for. Quiet, gentle, devoted, and a good provider. They had struggled for 2 years without a child. Nothing dramatic, just silence. Until one morning, after a fainting spell at the bank, she got the result. "Congratulations, you're pregnant. 8 weeks. She had screamed. Michael had cried. Even Mama Ronki, tough, opinionated Mama Ronki, had danced around the parlor like a young girl, praising God and calling neighbors. Bisola was treated like royalty. No stress, no lifting, no frowning. Even her Sunday rice was now brought to her bedside. Then, around her 6th month, the cravings started. It began harmlessly. Ice cubes, garden egg, boiled yam. But by the 7th month, It got deeper. She couldn't stop thinking about one thing: Snail. But not the usual small roadside ones. She wanted the big, curled, soft snail meat, cleaned, boiled, fried, peppered, and she wanted it in a big steel bowl with a chilled bottle of malt beside her. She didn't say anything at first. Mama Ronke was always preaching about avoiding snail during pregnancy, claiming that it brought bad luck or slow children. But one day, while scrolling Instagram, she saw a food vendor post a video. "Pregnancy craving? This soft snail bowl is the answer." The comments were filled with laughing emojis and mothers saying how much they ate snail while pregnant. Bisola smiled. "So it's not just me," she secretly ordered. And that was where it began. At first, she ordered once a week, then twice, then every 2 days. She would wait until Mama Ronka had gone to the market or taken her afternoon nap. She'd place her order discreetly, pay in full, instruct the rider to call her instead of honking. The moment the bag arrived, she'd rush to the kitchen, open it like a child opening Christmas presents, and dig in with shaky excitement. Sometimes she cried while eating, not out of guilt, but out of satisfaction. It was that good. When Michael would return home in the evening and ask what she had eaten, she would smile sweetly. "Yam and egg." He would peck her forehead, rub her belly, and say, "Just make sure you're getting enough protein, oh." She would nod. He had no idea. Even the house girl had been bribed into silence. But on that fateful morning, when she had overdone it and prepared a full bowl by herself, she had no idea Mama Ronka was coming early. She had barely finished half of it when the kitchen door swung open and all hell broke loose. It had been 2 weeks since the snail incident in the kitchen. Mama Ronka had not brought it up again. Michael didn't even know anything had happened. But Bisola was different now. Something had changed. At first, she thought it was just stress, normal third trimester discomfort. But then, she started noticing little things. She was lying on her side in bed one of the many nights Michael was on a business trip. The fan was on, the curtains drawn halfway, and the baby kicked now and then as usual. Sometime around 2 a.m., she woke up. Not from pain, but from something wet. Her chin, her neck, her pillow. She sat up, confused, touched her face and looked at her palm. Saliva, thick, slippery, warm. She blinked. Was I drooling in my sleep? She wiped it away with the hem of her wrapper, brushed her teeth again, and returned to bed. But the next morning, the pillow was wet again, and her lips were sticky. "It's just normal pregnancy symptoms," she said to herself. "Maybe my sinuses are open or the baby is pressing something." She didn't mention it to anyone, but that was just the beginning. The following Tuesday, she visited the antenatal clinic at the General Hospital. The nurses were friendly. The waiting hall was bright. Everything was going fine, until it was time for her routine ultrasound. She lay back on the table, stomach exposed and oiled, while the sonographer moved the cold device gently around her belly. He squinted at the screen, then paused, then zoomed in, then paused again. Bisola tilted her head. "Is everything okay?" The sonographer smiled, professionally. Yes, madam. Just checking the movement." "Movement?" He pressed the probe a little harder. The second one is a bit slow." "Second what?" "Ah, sorry, your twin babies, ma. I thought you knew." Bisola's mouth opened slightly. Her heart skipped. "I'm carrying twins?" He blinked. "Yes, now. It's very clear." She blinked rapidly. Her hands trembled. She wanted to be happy, she was supposed to be. But instead she felt cold. Twins? Why didn't the first scan show this? Why did they hide? And why is one of them slow? That Saturday, she followed her sister-in-law, Wunmi, to the market for baby things. Mama Ronke had traveled to Abeokuta for a burial, and Michael was away for an award dinner. As they were pricing baby flannels, a heavily wrinkled woman, a seller, likely in her 60s, stared at Bisola for a long time without saying anything. Bisola smiled awkwardly and moved on. But as they left the stall, the old woman whispered, "My daughter, please pray for the second one." Bisola stopped. "Sorry, Ma. You are carrying two, but one is shadowed. I don't understand. Pray. The first one will dance. The second one will lie still." Before she could ask another question, the woman turned and walked away, melting into the crowd. Wunmi didn't hear. She was already ahead, arguing with another seller about baby socks. Bisola's hands grew cold. She didn't mention that incident to anyone, not even Michael. That night, Bisola stood in front of the mirror. She rubbed her belly gently with shea butter, whispering quietly to her babies. "You're both okay. You're both fine. You're both strong." But her reflection looked back with uncertainty. Then, the baby kicked, strong, on the right side, but the left, silent. She placed her palm flat. Still nothing. She adjusted her wrapper, sat down, took a deep breath, then finally whispered, "God, please, don't let my cravings be the reason." And for the first time in many weeks, she cried. Not tears of joy, but the kind of quiet sobs that fill a room when only you and your conscience are present. The tension of that hospital scan refused to leave Bisola's chest for days. She couldn't stop thinking about the sonographer's comment. "The second one is a bit slow." But she didn't say anything to Michael. She didn't want to cause panic. She kept her smile tight, her voice cheerful, and her routine exactly the same. Until the following week, when they visited a private maternity clinic for a second opinion. This time, it was at LifeSpring Hospital, a sleek private facility with scented halls, touch-screen check-in systems, and nurses who wore perfume and smiled too much. Michael had insisted on a checkup there because of a friend's recommendation. They walked into the cool, lavender-scented ultrasound room, and Bisola felt her nerves return. She lay down, her blouse lifted, her wrapper pulled low to expose her belly. The female sonographer rubbed gel over her skin and turned the monitor toward them. "Wow, two healthy babies, I must say," the woman chirped, smiling. "See how active they are, turning and kicking like champions." Bisola blinked. "They're okay? Perfect. Both of them. One is slightly bigger, and that's normal with twins, but both are in good positions and very responsive. Are you doing anything special, Mummy?" Michael chuckled proudly and held Bisola's hand. Bisola's lips trembled slightly, in relief. "So? They're fine?" Then Mama Ronke was just being dramatic. That same night, after Michael had fallen asleep, Bisola picked up her phone quietly and opened her favorite food vendor's Instagram page at Nija Snail Queen. She scrolled through the videos. Snail peppered in green sauce. Snail grilled with onions. Snail fried and served with pork. Her mouth watered. She placed an order immediately. 12,000 Naira snail bowl, 4,000 Naira grilled pork. Deliver with extra pepper, please, and no shells. The following day, by 11:30 a.m., she asked the house help to say she was going for her antenatal at the local clinic. Mama Ronke was around that week. She had just returned from Abeokuta and was cooking bitter leaf soup in the backyard. Bisola slipped out in an Uber and directed the driver to her secret location, a small buka in Gbagada, hidden near a corner street, where the woman didn't ask questions. She just served. She sat at the back of the small local food joint, far from the road, with dark shades on and scarf wrapped around her head. Her large belly jutted out boldly. The server brought her snail and pork, swimming in peppered sauce with a chilled malt and a cold towel. Bisola dug in. Her hands trembled with excitement. Every bite felt like she was winning. Winning against her mother-in-law, winning against fear, winning against all those silly African superstitions. She was in heaven until someone tapped her shoulder. She turned, startled. It was a middle-aged woman with a scarf and large tribal marks. "My daughter, please don't be offended." Bisola swallowed slowly. "Are you the one that just parked in the red Uber?" She nodded, cautious. "I don't mean to interfere, but please, take it easy. This your condition. I don't think this kind of meat is good for it." Bisola blinked. "Sorry?" "Snail. It's not every food you eat when you're pregnant. My cousin's daughter ate it and—" Bisola interrupted quickly. "Auntie, thank you, but please, let's not do all these African superstitions today. I'm fine. My babies are fine." She picked another snail. Slowly. The woman nodded quietly. "No problem," and she walked away. Bisola didn't even look up again. She just muttered, "Everywhere I go, always one prophet or the other." The lying became natural. Whenever she craved snail, she would say she had antenatal claim her friend Wunmi needed her help, pretend she was meeting with a tailor, or say she had sharp pelvic pains and needed fresh air. She became an actress in her own home. Mama Ronka tried to monitor her once, but Bisola outsmarted her. "Mummy, the clinic called. Doctor wants to see me now. Something about urine protein. Let me quickly go and come back." "I'll follow you," Mama Ronka said. No, Mummy. I'll go to the smaller branch close to the bank so I can withdraw for the baby shopping too." "Bisola, are you sure?" "I'm sure, Ma." She left, again, to the same joint, or sometimes she would eat in the car. One evening at home. Michael returned from work early one day and found Bisola sleeping deeply on the couch. There was a red pepper stain on her chin, a white polythene nylon under the cushion, and the faint smell of fried pork in the air. He smiled, shook his head, and whispered, "This your pregnancy cravings?" He rubbed her belly, kissed her forehead, and went upstairs. He didn't suspect anything. Not yet. The sky was soft gray that morning, the kind that made you want to stay indoors and wrap a wrapper around your chest. But Bisola insisted on going out. "I just need to stretch my legs, Mummy," she said sweetly, slipping her feet into flat sandals. "Stretch your legs inside the compound," Mama Ronki replied, not lifting her eyes from the baby sweater she was knitting. "No, nah, I feel stiff. I'll just walk round Gani Fawe Hinmi Park and buy fruits. It's good for the babies." "Then let me come with you." "Ah, no, Mummy. What if Michael comes back and you're not around, and I won't stay long?" Mama Ronke narrowed her eyes, slowly placed the wool aside, and watched Bisola tie her scarf. Stylish, folded like a turban. Bisola avoided her gaze. She was already halfway to the gate. Once outside the compound, she exhaled deeply and turned left. Not toward the park, but toward Oja Oba, the hidden market lane near the mechanic shops. The familiar woman greeted her with a knowing smile. "Madam Twinbelly, you know they forget us." "Bring me the usual," Bisola whispered. She settled on the same cracked wooden bench at the corner of the joint, behind a tall refrigerator. Her body curved slightly forward as she scooped her first piece of snail, licked the pepper from her fingers, then reached for a pork rib. Her eyes closed in slow pleasure. Suddenly, she felt a presence behind her. She turned, expecting to see the server. Instead, it was an elderly man in white native standing just a few feet away, leaning on a wooden staff. He was staring directly at her. "It is sweet, Abi," he said calmly. Bisola froze. Her fingers tightened around the pork. "Sir?" I said. "It is sweet. The thing you are eating. Very sweet." She nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. But sometimes sweetness is the reason tears come." She blinked. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "You will." He turned and walked away into the narrow path between two stalls. Bisola jumped to her feet and looked around. "Uncle? Hello? Sir?" But the man was gone. Just like that, the meat suddenly didn't taste the same. She threw the rest away and walked home. When she returned, Mama Ronke was sitting in the veranda, arms folded. "You went to the park?" "Yes, Ma." "Where are the fruits?" Bisola blinked. "Ah, I forgot. I was feeling dizzy." "You didn't walk like someone dizzy." "Mummy, please. I just want to rest." She stepped past her and went inside, but Mama Ronke remained seated, watching the gate. Bisola had showered. She had changed into her loose nightwear. She had even arranged her hospital bag again to distract herself. She sat on the bed, rubbing coconut oil over her belly, when her wrapper slipped off the bed and revealed the white napkin she had tucked under the pillow earlier. It was lightly stained red. She reached for it, confused. It smelled like pepper, snail pepper. She froze, then quickly folded it and stuffed it deep into her handbag. Behind her, the bedroom door creaked. "Bisola?" She turned. Michael stood at the doorframe, holding 2 cups of malt. "Here. I thought you might be craving something cold." She forced a smile. "Thank you, baby." As she took the cup from him, she wondered how long it would be before her secret started speaking for her. It was a Thursday evening. The sky outside was dark with thunderclouds. The air smelt of distant rain and pepper soup. The generator hummed faintly from the backyard, giving light to the sitting room where Bisola lay stretched out on the couch, her feet propped on 2 pillows, belly tight and high, eyes half closed in sleep. Michael was upstairs, reviewing emails. Mama Ronke had gone to the neighbors to borrow a pressure pot. The house was calm, too calm. Then it started. A dull, stretching pain across her lower back, followed by a tightness in her lower stomach. Bisola sat up slowly. Another wave hit her, this time with pressure that forced her to gasp. She reached for the throw pillow beside her, pressing it against her belly. Maybe it's Braxton Hicks again. But this one felt deeper. She stood up, and that's when she felt the gush, warm, sudden, between her legs. She looked down. The couch was wet. "Michael!" she screamed, voice shaking. "Michael!" Footsteps thundered down the staircase. He appeared in boxers and a white shirt, his face frozen. "What? What happened?" "My water, it's time." He blinked. "Wait! Now? Now! The rest happened in blurs. Michael stuffing hospital bags into the car, Bisola moaning in the back seat, clutching her waist. Mama Ronke jumping into the car at the last second with her scarf barely tied. Traffic lights. Rain beginning. Horns blaring. By the time they arrived at Cedarville Women's Hospital, nurses had brought out a wheelchair. Bisola's wrapper was already soaked through. She was wheeled in fast. "She's full term," the nurse said. "Twins, booked with us already. Let's go." Michael signed papers with shaking hands. Mama Ronke stood in a corner, praying under her breath. Bisola was stretched on the bed, her legs up. The pain hit her in waves. Her fingers dug into the mattress. Her hair stuck to her forehead. "You're doing well, madam," the midwife said. "One more push!" she screamed. Her voice echoed into the hallway. "Push again!" And then a cry, loud, sharp, alive. The first baby was out. The midwife smiled. "Healthy boy!" Michael, standing behind the curtain divider, jumped slightly. Bisola exhaled, half relief, half pain, but the contractions didn't stop. Another push, another scream. "Let's go, madam, the second one is coming!" But something changed. The second baby took longer. The room grew tense. The midwife adjusted her gloves, called another nurse in, whispered something in her ear. Bisola kept pushing. Her eyes rolled back in pain. "Keep going, Bisola, keep going." And then, silence. No cry, just a small, squishy sound, followed by the soft murmur of the midwife. "The second one is out." No one spoke for 5 seconds. Bisola looked up. "Where's the cry?" The midwife glanced at the nurse. Then they both smiled. "Just a second, madam. Everything is fine." But Bisola's heart dropped. Her breathing slowed. They were brought to her after cleanup, one on each side of the bed. One was already crying again, kicking his tiny legs in the nurse's hands. The other, still, not asleep, eyes open, but not blinking, not moving, not crying, not smiling, just staring. "He's just tired," the nurse said quickly. "Sometimes the second twin comes out slower. Needs time to adjust." Bisola forced a nod, but in her chest, something clenched. 3 days later, they returned home. The house was decorated. Friends had sent flowers, aunties brought baby wrappers, the church women sent malt and cabin biscuits. Everyone danced. "Twins! Our Bisola-born twins, oh!" Michael laughed. Mama Ronki sang. Even the house girls smiled more than usual. Bisola just watched. Later that night, everyone had slept. The twins lay beside her on the bed, one turning his head restlessly in sleep, the other just staring, eyes wide open, no sound, no movement. Bisola leaned closer and whispered, "Can you hear, Mummy?" Nothing. She touched his cheek gently, no response. Then, just as she started to panic, he blinked, slowly, drooled a little from the side of his mouth. She sighed in relief, but her heart did not release her. And outside the window, a snail slowly crawled across the veranda tiles. 2 weeks after the twins came home, the house was still dancing with celebration. Visitors came daily, some with prayer, some with advice, some with powder and wrappers and baby soaps. Michael couldn't stop smiling. Bisola, now visibly thinner, played the role of happy new mother with perfect performance. But deep in her chest, a quiet thunder was rumbling. Because every time she looked at her second son, something inside her twitched. It was one of those nights when the house had finally gone quiet. Michael was snoring softly on the other side of the bed. One of the twins, Tolu, was already fussing, waving his hands, pulling his mouth for food. Bisola shifted gently, lifted her blouse, and placed Tolu on her breast. He latched immediately. She smiled tiredly and rubbed his back. Then she turned to the second cot, the other one. Tayo. He was awake, eyes open, mouth parted slightly, not blinking, not crying, just watching the ceiling. Bisola sat up and leaned closer. She clicked her fingers beside his face. No reaction. She tapped his chest lightly. Still, nothing. Tayo, baby. She lifted him slowly. His body was warm, but too still. His eyes shifted very slightly, but not toward her, upward. She began to feel cold in her fingers. She brought him to her chest, rubbed his back. Are you okay, baby? Say something. Stillness. No tears, no frown, no suckling movement, nothing. Then, a single thread of drool slid from the corner of his lips and landed silently on her chest. She gasped. By 8 a.m. that morning, Bisola had bundled both babies into their wraps. Where are you going? Michael asked, reaching for his toothbrush. Hospital, she said flatly. But they have checkup next week. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Let me go alone. He shrugged. Okay, let me send Jide to drive you. No, I'll go myself. She didn't want company. She didn't want to explain what she wasn't even sure of. The pediatrician was young, fast-talking, and confident. He took vitals, checked Tayo's temperature, measured his head. Heart rate okay. Breathing normal. He tapped Tayo's knee with a reflex hammer. The baby's leg jumped, barely. Does he cry? Yes, but not often. Does he feed? Yes, but not as hungrily. How does he react to touch? That's why I'm here. The doctor smiled. Madam, every child is different, especially twins. One may be faster, the other slower. It doesn't mean something is wrong. But he doesn't move much. Doesn't blink, just stares. And he drools. A lot. That can be normal too. Some babies just love saliva. As long as he's eating and not in distress, you don't need to panic. But something is... Come back in 2 weeks. Let's monitor him." He handed her a tiny vitamin dropper and stood up to shake hands. Bisola left the clinic in a daze. She was walking toward the car when an older woman, thin, modest, wrapper tied up to her chest, walked past her and suddenly paused. She looked into the carrier, looked at the baby, looked at her, then whispered, "Only one came out the way you prayed." Bisola stopped. "Sorry, what did you say?" But the woman was already walking away. Michael had just finished feeding Tolu when he asked the question. "Babe, what's going on?" Bisola blinked. "Nothing. No, really. You've been staring at Tayo like he's a ghost. What's wrong?" She hesitated. "Does he feel different to you? Different how? Doesn't he stare too much? He's a baby. He doesn't cry much. Maybe he's calm. He drools a lot." Michael smiled. "Then maybe he took after you. You said you used to drool." "Michael, I'm serious. And I'm serious too. They're both fine. But one is too fine." Michael frowned. "What are you saying?" Bisola looked at her hands. Her fingers trembled. "I don't know." She didn't mention the snail. She didn't mention the bowl. She didn't mention the market woman or the man with the staff, or the dream she had 2 nights ago. She just turned off the light and laid back down with her eyes wide open in the dark. That night, she dreamed, she was sitting on the same stool from her old kitchen. The bowl of snail was steaming again on her lap. She picked one and brought it to her mouth. But before she could chew, the snail grew a baby's face. It opened its mouth and drooled, then whispered, "You fed me first." She woke up screaming. Michael leapt out of bed. "Bisola?" She clutched her chest, sweating. "It's okay. I just need water." Hope you are enjoying our story. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. They were exactly 7 months old when the first boy, Tolu, crawled for the first time. It happened on a Tuesday morning. The curtains were half drawn. The tiled floor had just been mopped. The twins were laid on a thick, fluffy playmat Mama Ronki had insisted they import from Dubai. Tolu had been grunting, shaking his arms like an athlete preparing for a sprint. Then, with a sudden jolt, he lifted his tiny bum and kicked himself forward. "He moved! He moved!" Bisola screamed, clapping. "Michael! Mummy! Come and see!" Michael rushed in, still wearing one leg of his trousers. Mama Ronka appeared from the kitchen, holding her Bible. Everyone gathered around the mat. Tolu kicked again, this time with confidence. He moved forward, then laughed, then fell, then pushed again. The house echoed with cheers. "That's my boy!" Michael shouted, recording with his phone. Mama Ronka sang a short chorus under her breath. Then, they all turned to look at the other child. Tayo. He was sitting, straight, calm, eyes round and dreamy. Drool ran from the corner of his mouth, dripping softly onto the neck of his onesie. He smiled, once, then tilted his head sideways as if watching a movie. Not crawling, not trying, just watching. She muttered. Bisola looked up. "What?" "Nothing." "Mummy, what is it?" "I just said Or is now a crime?" "But you're looking at Tayo like what?" "That boy is just sitting there like king of the carpet while his brother is crawling like soldier. He's calm. Some babies are like that." "Calm? Or weak?" Michael interrupted. "Mummy, please." Mama Ronke raised her hands. "I didn't say anything, just observing my grandchildren." But the damage was done. Bisola lifted Tayo and held him close. He didn't resist. Didn't reach for her hair like Tolu always did. Didn't pull her nose or giggle when she kissed his cheek. He just stared ahead and drooled. It was 2 weeks later. Michael's uncle, Uncle Sunday, came to visit with his wife from Ibadan. They brought crates of malt, diapers, and a basket of fresh oranges. The twins were brought out for greetings. Everyone fussed. Tolu waved his hand, kicked, and tried to stand. Tayo sat, As usual, silent, smiling, wet chin. Auntie Ronky, Uncle Sunday's wife, leaned in close to Tayo. She pinched his cheek softly, then tilted her head. This one looks like Deep Thinker-O. Doesn't talk much, eh? They're still babies, Bisola said, smiling weakly. Ah, but the other one is flying around already. She watched him longer, then turned to Bisola. Did you eat snail when you were pregnant? Bisola's chest tightened. Michael blinked. Auntie? No offense, oh, she said, holding up her hand. But I've seen it before, in our side. There are stories. Pregnant women who eat too much snail. Sometimes the children come out dull. Bisola's face dropped. Please, Ma, let's not spread that kind of talk in front of children. I didn't mean it badly now, just asking, because of the saliva. Michael stood. Let's go inside. But wait, does he walk? They're just 9 months. But his twin is already crawling across chairs. That evening, Bisola didn't speak to anyone. She fed the children, wiped their mouths, and locked herself in the bedroom with the lights off. By the time the twins turned 10 months, the difference was clearer than ever. Tolu was walking with assistance. He screamed when he wanted food. He laughed, clapped, said Baba and Tata, and was already pointing to things and mimicking sounds. Tayo was still sitting, still drooling, still smiling, still watching. That morning, Bisola was spoon-feeding pap to both of them when Tolu slapped the spoon away and shouted. Tayo opened his mouth, then dribbled half the pap down his chest. Mama Ronke entered and stood in the doorway. You see now? You see the result of disobedience? Bisola froze. Mummy, please. No. I kept quiet. I prayed. I waited. But look now. One is moving, the other is watching. One is saying Dada, the other is dripping on his leg. And you'll still say it's not the snail. Mummy, please don't. Did I not warn you? Did I not say it? Did I not tell you what I saw happen in this family before? But you called it superstition. Now you have given birth to snail and man. Bisola burst into tears. They are both my children. Yes, but only one is moving forward. And it's your doing. Michael entered and raised his voice. Mummy, that's enough, she hissed. I won't talk again. Let life talk. By the time the twins turned 3, there was no denying it. Everyone could see the difference. Tolu was not just walking. He was climbing chairs, laughing loudly, clapping and pulling Michael's phone charger from the wall for fun. Tayo still sat, still smiled, still drooled. He could grip soft toys, blink slowly, and occasionally coo, but he had not said mama or dada or even tried to crawl. Most days he would just sit on the playmat with a cloth bib around his neck, eyes following his brother, like a quiet audience watching a fast movie. It was their 3rd birthday. The house was full that day. Family, neighbors, churchwomen, and a few schoolmates of Michael came around to celebrate the famous twins that everyone talked about. Michael hired a photographer. A clown came to blow balloons. The cake was shaped like a baby bottle, split into 2 sections for each child. Everyone brought gifts. And then, as the party flowed outside under the canopy, a soft murmur began to move through the guests. Which one is which? Is that the one that walks? Ah, look at this one just sitting quietly. Is he shy? Bisola stood near the gate, pretending to adjust the decoration ribbon, her ears burning. Then came Sister Remila Kun, one of the church women. She walked up to Bisola with a big smile, held both of her hands and said, Ah, Bisola, you have tried. Double blessing. Though, you know one is moving faster than the other, ain't? Bisola nodded silently. Some of us had twins too. My second one didn't talk until almost 3 years. You'll be fine. But, can I ask something? Yes? Sister Remy looked around, leaned in closer. You no chop snail when you carry them, Abi? Bisola froze. Her throat tightened. No worry. I just ask because sometimes snail they bring one fast, one slow. Excuse me, Bisola whispered, and walked into the kitchen. That night, alone with the twins, the house was quiet, balloons deflated, socks and wrapping paper lay around like battlefield remains. Michael was asleep upstairs. Mama Ronke had gone back to Abeokuta for a church vigil. Bisola sat on the mat with both boys beside her, one tugging at her wrapper, the other gazing at the ceiling fan again. She looked down at Tayo. "Can you hear Mummy?" He didn't turn. She clicked her fingers. Still nothing. Then gently she held his cheeks, turned his face toward hers and said, "Say something. Anything. Please." He smiled, drooled, reached one finger toward her face. Slowly. She smiled, eyes burning with tears. "You're in there, aren't you?" He blinked. The next week, Bisola did something she hadn't done since her wedding day. She walked alone to church, not with the twins, not with Michael, not with powder on her face. Just Bisola, wrapper, blouse, headscarf, and pain. She went during a midweek afternoon prayer hour when the church would be mostly empty. She sat in the third row and waited. After a while, Pastor Tade's wife, Mummy Tade, came in quietly with her Bible. She was surprised to see her. "Bisola?" Bisola stood. "Mummy, I need to talk. Come into my office." She closed the door behind them, and for the first time, the words came out. "I ate it." "Ate what, dear?" "Snail, pork, everything they warned me not to eat when I was pregnant. I ate it in secret. I lied to my mother-in-law. I told my husband I had cravings, but I was obsessed." She wiped her eyes. "Now one of my sons is walking, talking, flying like an eagle, and the other just sits like a snail." Mummy Tade remained quiet. She didn't flinch. She just listened. "I don't know if it's the snail. I don't know if it's my punishment. I just want help, not judgment." Mummy Tade leaned forward and took her hands. "Bisola, I won't tell you it's your fault, and I won't tell you it's not. But what I will tell you is this. God gives us all a path. Some are smooth, some are slow, but even snails get to their destination. Eventually." Bisola broke down again, but this time it wasn't just shame. It was release. She came home and bathed both boys herself. She massaged their legs with baby oil, tickled their feet, read to them from a cloth book, and when she laid Tayo down, she whispered in his ear, "From now on, I'm walking your path with you. If you're slow, I'll be slow. If you pause, I'll sit with you. If you drool, I'll clean it. If you smile, I'll smile back." Weeks passed. Bisola stopped hiding him. She stopped being embarrassed when he drooled at the salon. She started taking him on walks, singing gently into his ear. She enrolled them both in early stimulation playgroup. One day, in the middle of the class, while Tolu ran across the mat, Tayo pulled himself forward. Once, then again. Crawling. The mothers clapped. Bisola held her breath. Then Tayo looked up and said softly, "Ba." Not ba-ba, just ba. But it was something. She wept openly in that class. It was at night. Michael was working on his laptop on the couch. Bisola was folding clothes. Tolu had fallen asleep. Tayo was playing with a plastic cup, crawling around in circles near the coffee table. Then, quietly, he reached for the table, grabbed the edge, and pulled himself up. Bisola turned and dropped the wrapper she was folding. Michael looked up. His mouth opened. Tayo wobbled slightly, balanced himself, and stood, drool still on his chin, but standing. Then he looked at his mother and stretched one hand forward. "Ma," one word. Bisola sank to her knees. Michael stood up and hugged her tightly from behind. He said, "Mama." Tears. Soft music playing in the background. Mama Ronke entered from the gate, eyes red from travel, just in time to witness it. She dropped her bag slowly. "I saw it," she whispered. "I saw it with my own eyes." And she started crying too. It had been 3 months since Tayo said Ma. He now walked slowly, wobbly like someone learning how to skate. But he walked. He still drooled, still stared at lights, still preferred sitting alone sometimes. But he also laughed now. He pulled his mother's earrings. He clapped when Tolu ran past him, and sometimes, when she wasn't looking, he would call out quietly, Ba. One morning in the backyard. The sun was soft and gold. Bisola sat on a bench in the backyard with a cup of lukewarm tea in her hands. Tolu was chasing a balloon. Tayo was crawling in his slow zigzag motion, holding on to small chairs and buckets for support. Mama Ronke was sitting nearby, peeling yam, humming an old Oriki tune. Michael was watering the garden. And for the first time in over a year, there was peace. Bisola watched Tayo approach her. He stood on his feet again, wobbly, uncertain, but determined. He took one step, then another, until his chubby hands rested on her knees. She dropped her cup and bent down. Tayo, she whispered. He smiled at her, still no words, just his eyes, and his breath, and his hand, resting on her heart. You made it, she whispered, kissing his cheek. Moral of the story. Not every warning is foolish. Not every craving should be followed. And not every delay is a curse. Some mistakes won't destroy us, but they will slow us, shape us, and force us to grow the hard way. Bisola's story is not just about Snail, it's about the little disobediences we call nothing, that later become everything. So to every mother, every daughter, every woman watching this, before you ignore a voice of warning, ask yourself, what if they're right? Thank you for watching this powerful story on African Tales by Imad. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think twice, or reminded you of someone, please drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe for more unforgettable African stories filled with emotion, truth, and meaning. And remember, sometimes the consequences don't come loud, they come slow, just like a snail. See you in the next story. Bye, guys.